We're jumping right into a pretty radical theory today. What if some of the world's oldest myths from completely disconnected cultures aren't just stories? What if they're actually fragmented eyewitness accounts of a single real place that we've totally forgotten about?
It all kicks off with this really strange puzzle. I mean, how is it that cultures from China, Cambodia, and Java, all separated by huge distances and a ton of time, somehow tell the exact same story about a divine mountain? It's a place of incredible fortune guarded by some terrifying beast. It's the kind of coincidence that's just a little too perfect to be a coincidence, right?
And just look at how specific the details get when you line them up. Okay, so in China, you've got Kunlun, right? Home of the Peaches of Immortality, guarded by this crazy nine-headed tiger. Then you jump over to Cambodia, and their myth says the mountain is the source of the land itself. And in Bali, it's Mount Agung, where a treasure-hoarding dragon lives. The names, the details, they all change a bit, but that core idea, a guarded mountain overflowing with some kind of divine fortune, it's identical.
And this is where it gets really weird, because the real-world geography just doesn't match the story at all. Sure, archaeologists have tried to link these myths to real mountains, like the actual Kunlun Range in China, but guess what? None of these places look anything like the legends describe. They're not some sky pillar. They're not the source of 4 giant rivers. The map just doesn't fit.
So this brings us to the central idea, the big what if of this whole thing. What if we've been looking at this completely backwards? What if these myths aren't just similar ideas, but are actually different memories of a single, real place that everyone saw, but just remembered a little differently?
So to actually test an idea like this, the source material proposes this really clever tool. They called it the tracing paper method. The idea is super simple. You stop treating each myth as its own separate story. Instead, you think of each one like a piece of tracing paper, a faint, slightly distorted copy of an original image that's been lost to time.
And the process is really straightforward, 3 steps. Step 1, you basically overlay all these tracings, all these different myths on top of each other. Step 2, you look for the thick lines. These are the core details that show up again and again across different cultures. That's your signal. And finally, step 3, you filter out the faint lines, the unique cultural details that only show up in one story. If you do that, the theory goes, the original picture should start to come into focus.
All right, so let's actually do it. Let's apply this method right now. We're going to build like a police sketch of this lost original location using only those thick lines that keep repeating in the memories.
Okay, thick line number 1. The place was an island. In the Kunlun myth, the mountain is the only peak left after a massive flood. The Khmer story literally starts on an island that rises from the sea. And the Javanese myth? It describes their land as an island that was just floating freely on the ocean. The memory is crystal clear on this point. This place was surrounded by water.
Our second thick line is this idea of an incredible divine fortune. And what's so fascinating here is how each culture translates what fortune means. For the Chinese, it's immortality, magical peaches. For the Khmer, the fortune is the land itself, the territory. For the Balinese, it's literal gold and diamonds. So the prize changes, but the core function, this life-changing divine reward, that stays exactly the same.
Third, this place was not a tourist destination. It was locked down, heavily guarded. In China, a monstrous 9-headed tiger. In the Garden of Eden story, cherubim with a frickin' flaming sword. In Bali, a super powerful dragon. The specific guardian is different, but the job description is identical. A terrifying, non-human protector keeping you away from the prize.
Okay, our fourth clue is a number, and this one is weirdly, incredibly specific. The number 4. Multiple completely separate myths, from the Chinese Kunlun all the way to the Hebrew Garden of Eden, describe this sacred spot as the source of 4 massive rivers that flow out to the 4 corners of the world. I mean, that's not a vague detail. That is a very precise piece of geography.
And finally, our 5th clue is another number, 9. The Chinese tracing is super specific on this point. Their Kunlun myth talks over and over again about a 9-fold structure. 9 gates, 9 wells, 9 crooked peaks. This number, 9, is just seared into their memory of the place.
All right, so our police sketch is done. Let's recap. We are looking for an island mountain with a 9-part structure that's a source of immense fortune protected by a powerful guardian and is the fountainhead for 4 major rivers. So the big question is, does a place like this actually exist anywhere on Earth?
Well, according to this theory, the answer is a resounding yes. The location is the Namunukula mountain range in Sri Lanka. And just look at how perfectly the pieces fit. That ninefold structure we were looking for, the name Namunukula literally means 9 peaks in the local language. The island motif, well, it's a huge mountain on the island of Sri Lanka. The guardian? Local folklore is full of stories about a guardian deity named Indaka. The 4 rivers? These highlands are the source for all of Sri Lanka's major rivers. It's a shockingly precise match.
But here's where it gets even crazier. The geographical match, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The theory says that when you start digging into the language and the political history, you uncover an even deeper connection. And maybe, just maybe, a history that was deliberately hidden.
Okay, let's start with the language. In the myths from Cambodia and Java, there's this key royal title, Śailarāja. Scholars translate it as Mountain King. Makes sense, right? But the theory poses this incredible question. What if that's not a translation, but a mispronunciation? What if foreigners heard Śailarāja? It sounds almost identical, but it means something completely different. It means King of Sihale, which was the ancient name for Sri Lanka.
And this is where modern politics crashes into ancient myth. You can look at primary source documents, like the Kandyan Convention from 1815. It clearly, officially refers to the island as Sihale. But fast forward to independence in 1948, and the official documents suddenly prioritize the names Lanka and Ceylon. The theory suggests this wasn't an accident. It was a move that effectively broke that linguistic chain, obscuring the connection to that ancient title, Śailarāja.
The plot thickens even more when you look at this quote from an old Chinese text. It talks about a people from the islands of the southern seas, who they called the Kurung. Now, Kurung sounds a lot like Kunlun, doesn't it? And their description of these people? Curly-haired, dark-skinned, and they can tame elephants. I mean, come on, that is a textbook description of ancient Sri Lankans.
So this is how the theory connects all the dots. It proposes this direct, unbroken line from the mythical place Kunlun to a real people mentioned in historical texts, the Kurung, whose description points directly to the historical nation of Sihale, modern-day Sri Lanka. And all of this leads to the most mind-bending claim in the entire theory, that this wasn't just about changing a name. It was about fundamentally redrawing the sacred map of the ancient world.
Here's the argument. The ancient name, Sihale Deshaya, didn't just refer to the island. It was a larger territory that included the famous Jambudvipa, which is basically the center of the world in Buddhist cosmology. So by renaming the entire nation to just one of its smaller parts, Lanka, you essentially orphan those other sacred territories. It created a cosmological vacuum that allowed a place like Jambudvipa to be sort of spiritually moved from its original island home and reassigned to mainland India.
And the theory takes it one step further. It applies the exact same logic to major historical figures. I mean, if Sihale really was this ancient center of the world, it suggests that figures like Gautama Buddha would also be from there. The claim is that the proof for this has been hiding in plain sight for centuries, in ancient rock inscriptions that have been well documented but perhaps completely misinterpreted or ignored.
So, what are we supposed to take away from all this? Look, this is a radical, maybe even controversial rereading of history. It's one that takes a small island and suggests it might be the forgotten origin point for some of humanity's oldest and most foundational stories. And it leaves us with this final, really provocative question. If our ancient myths really are fragmented maps of a forgotten world, what else is hiding in plain sight that we've completely failed to see?